we reported to you last week that a new study found that 100% of COVID injection recipients were presenting anomalous amyloid microclots. This is obviously a worldwide catastrophe that needs to be addressed immediately before we have some sort of mass extinction event. Well, Nicholas Holscher, epidemiologist and administrator at the McCullough Foundation, has just posted a follow-up study that has found that 낫tokinase dissolves 84% of amyloid microclots within 2 hours in vitro. This is obviously absolutely groundbreaking research and could mean that millions of lives could be spared.
Yeah, this study gathered a sample of about 85 people, and they claimed that half of them had long COVID and half of them were healthy. What they don't mention once in the entire manuscript, but it's buried in the supplemental tables, which nobody knows how to look at, 94% of these individuals received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine. So we can assume that instead of long COVID, it was actually long vaccine, particularly since there was no antibody testing for infection, no verification of past infection. And so since we're looking at long vaccine, and these authors found in 100% of the entire sample, all 85 of these people, that they all had circulating amyloid microclots in their blood. This is misfolded fibrin. Fibrin is what kind of helps your blood clot. It forms these net-like structures. And so they become dysfunctional, misfolded, and possibly even infectious, infecting other proteins. And these conglomerate into these irregular masses and build up all sorts of other biologically active materials, DNA and inflammatory markers. And they start to block blood vessels, block blood flow, and cause all sorts of pathogenic outcomes. They may even be behind the long white fibrous clots that are being pulled out of a large number of corpses worldwide by the majority of embalmers.
Yeah, even some live patients I've heard about, Nicholas, some people who, it's not just corpses, people that have had blood transfusions, they've seen those clots inside the blood transfusions. And my question is, could this also potentially be linked to the aggressive cancers that we're seeing?
You know, it is possible. It's in both vaccinated and in some unvaccinated individuals. There was 4 unvaccinated people in this study, and they did also have these clots.
Let me ask you, is it possible that that is because of shedding?
Yes, exactly. That's one of the main plausible reasons behind why some unvaccinated individuals have it.
But it just infuriates me that these are still on the market, that there is a possibility that shedding is still occurring of, which is causing these clots inside people who are not wanting anything to do with these injections. We do have some good news. You just published this article recently. Study finds 낫tokinase dissolves 84% of the amyloid microclots within 2 hours in vitro. This is really breakthrough.
Yeah, this is absolutely huge. So a natural and safe enzyme derived from fermented soybeans can literally, proven now experimentally in the test tube, dissolve 84% of the total microclot count in 2 hours. And so this is the strongest evidence we have that this can actually get rid of amyloid. And now this was not in vivo, this was not in an animal, but regardless, we do know it can happen. We do know when you ingest 낫tokinase orally, it does reach systemic circulation and will likely also exert effects on the circulating amyloids. And so what needs to happen next is human testing, human trials to assess the reduction in amyloid burden and spike burden from the 낫tokinase. We have to remember one more thing. This 낫tokinase presents dual action activity where it also has been shown to degrade the spike protein or frame-shifted proteins themselves, which are the very triggers that induce the amyloids in the first place. So you're knocking out the trigger and the pathogenic outcome. So this is very, very, very promising. And also, it is very safe.
key to why that was the case. Now, just going from your article, it says that at the higher dose, nattokinase reached peak activity at around 2 hours. It produced 84% reduction in total clot numbers, 52% reduction in total amyloid fluorescent intensity, and 20% reduction in median clot size. So it's not just working for the microclots by the looks of it, even though it's obviously more effective when you get it at that stage, but also median clot size. Is that correct?
Yeah, it appears this is going to help degrade any size of these misfolded proteins, these misfolded fibrin clots. And so, it won't be bound to any specific size. And so, again, this is very promising. Even hospital-grade clot busters, they don't show this promise because they don't act directly on fibrin itself like nattokinase does. So it's showing a lot of promise. There's one more method that I outlined in that Substack that's been revealed, which is using low-frequency ultrasound. This has much more health risks and has not been validated in humans, it appears, at all at this point, other than for diagnostic purposes. But it does offer a pathway for the future to reduce severe amyloid burden, especially in those with extremely large white fibrous clots.
Yeah, I just want to read another section here. 67%. Even at the lower dose, nattokinase still produced substantial dose-dependent effects. 67% reduction in total clot number, 20% reduction in total amyloid intensity, and 7% reduction in median clot size. So there is clear evidence that this is helping somewhat. What I want to know is why on earth haven't the health agencies been speaking about this with no explanation from the authorities? I mean, this needs to stop. The shots need to come off the market. If we're seeing this, as Nicholas mentioned in that study, even the unvaccinated patients had this problem. So if we're seeing this in unvaccinated people, sure, it may be from infection, but it could also be from shedding. And why should we, people who lost so much to not get injected, people who didn't compromise, people who lost their homes, their jobs, their families over this decision, now have to be subjected to this gross experiment because of shedding? It needs to stop.
Nattokinase isn't soy. It's natto is fermented soybeans, and the drug, well, the nutraceutical theoretically is not a kinase that puts a phosphate group on a molecule. It's a serine protease. So what they did was they took the natural product, which the fermented natto kills a very specific microbe. So they're like, we'll kill that microbe contributing to the microbiome and the digestion or the metabolism of food in your body when you eat a fermented. And if you ever ate natto, you can only take a little bit of it. It's disgusting. But the way we do it in the fermentation chemistry is to see we killed a very specific microbe, and then you stabilized it to kill it for eternity and never turn off. And what did you do? You changed the gut microbiome. Your food no longer became food, and nattokinase is a poison. And our body makes the right microbes to break down those microorganisms, or it uses them in our own body as food to nourish and feed our body. So again, there's a reason why it tastes disgusting, because you won't eat it. We lost our sense of taste and smell because they took those sensors away from us. How does a skunk hurt somebody? He sprays them, but it hurts for a really long time, and you never forget it, and you never go anywhere near that animal. And we've heard all about that all weekend. So again, nattokinase is a drug. So we're not going to turn around and do the same thing all over again and just carry around. And we see our 2-year-olds, as Heather just said, they're carrying around these pills. Just buckets of pills, Monday, Tuesday, when do I take this, when do I take that? And I got people or patients asking me, well, what do I do, Dr. Judy, when do I dose that? It's food, eat it, it's water, drink it, you're being poisoned. And the kids won't eat and drink that poison, the autistic kids, because they know it's poison, because they've been poisoned with it through the generations. Stop looking for the quick answer and go to the tough solution and ask, how we destroyed this environment, how God gave us the ability sitting in this room to get it back.
Can I ask you a question that's like one of the most common questions I get when I bring up the subject of blood and coagulation issues and all of the various rat poisons they put in the bodies to stop, keep the blood thin, right? They're worried about. Very quickly on the coagulation concerns, the blood clotting, and all of the poisons that are put into people because of that concern. Many people in what we call the natural realm have adopted this thing called nattokinase. And you've spoken, hey, this is a poison.
Correct.
I think we need some clarity because there's a lot of confusion out there. If you can do a brief version.
Sure. It's because it's not a kinase. It's fermented soybeans. The paper is 1980. So when you ferment, I'm a fermentation chemist starting in 1980. So when you ferment soybeans, you will get a white paste on them, and they're disgusting. They're a delicacy in many parts of the world because of extended life. And they affect a class of proteins called sirtuins and modifiers of DNA of message at the epigenetic level. I'll leave it there. But so that's what fermented soybeans is. Well, what nattokinase is it was made into a drug where we identified the exact microbe that metabolized fermented in the soybean, and that microbe would make those proteins stimulate. But they're disgusting. They become a poison too much. You can't do it if you go try to eat a lot of those. So, but when you stabilize that and you make it a drug, so it's only going to kill that one microbe and all the other things that taste disgusting and are poisons you shouldn't be eating. And then you put it in a pill. Natto is not nattokinase, and nattokin plus, which is what we recommend from Nutritional Frontiers. It has from plants all the other therapeptidases, the bromelains and things. So when it's isolated as a drug, it stabilizes. Natto is fermented soybean. And so in 1980, when nattokinase was made by a Japanese scientist in 1980, he used it to stabilize the bond so that he could make it in a pill form, because natto and fermented soybeans, try eating them. They're disgusting. They're white. They're covered with. But this was another part of the deception, if you will, in this PowerPoint, because he showed fermented soybeans and then he said nattokinase.